2 years ago, when hanging out with my boyfriend at the time and his friends, Nike Air Forces came up in conversation, and my white boyfriend, pointing out that I was wearing them, uttered, "It's ironic how you're wearing them, since your cousins in the Philippines most likely had to make them." In August of last year, when discussing the importance of the Black Lives Matter movement with a white passing half-Asian friend, I was told, "You shouldn't have made friends with white people if you didn't want racist comments said about you. There are other people you could have chosen to be friends with," referring to the 3 non-white kids in my 40-person grade 9 class. My name is Carrie Salingua, and these are only a few of the many experiences I have encountered with racism. As we continue to see a rise in COVID-19 cases, an increase of discrimination towards Asians is also being witnessed, with the former president of the United States proudly labeling COVID the Chinese virus. This is no surprise. Because of this, Chinese Americans are experiencing a new wave of casual racism. The phrase Kung Flu, also used by Trump, is incredibly hateful and offensive. These recent terms, partnered with cruel jokes mocking bat eating, are widespread across social media. Researchers from San Francisco were able to collect more than 1,000 reported cases of xenophobia against the Chinese American community between January 28 and February 24, even before San Diego confirmed its first COVID-19 patient. The model minority myth is another generalization, asserting Asians as the best minority, labeling them as smart and hardworking, building this perfect stigma around the Asian community. While people may believe this myth to be beneficial to Asians, it causes more harm than good. Not only does this take away from one's personal success by crediting their work ethic and intelligence to their race, but the myth also has anti-Black undertones. White people were able to construct a myth disguised as propping up the Asian community and use this as a way to further suppress the Black and brown people of North America. They put Asians on this pedestal, praising them and glorifying them, then turned their backs and started comparing every other minority to them. It perpetuates the implication that unsuccessful minority groups are at fault for their own failures, collectively. Furthermore, it helps shift the accountability from the oppressive system of white supremacy to those being oppressed by that same system. All this myth does is divide racial groups, making sure they are kept from attaining justice for themselves. This being said, experiences by Asians in North America could never be equated to the 400 years of systemic racism and structural violence faced by the Black community. To dismiss and normalize racism against Asians by comparing it to other races, on the other hand, is an idea that must be terminated. Racial injustice is racial injustice. If you believe that Asian communities don't experience discrimination, you're ignorant. I want you to put yourself in my shoes for a second. You're 6 years old, visiting the Philippines for the first time since you were born. Somehow the scorching rays of a tropical sun tan your skin a little more than your parents would have approved. They buy bars of bleaching papaya soap and scrub your skin until it's so red, your brownness is invisible. You're not allowed to play outside for the rest of the trip. You're 10 years old and your family was invited to a Filipino party. You walk in with your mom by your side and are immediately pulled to a table of Filipino moms you hardly recognize. They praise you for your small nose and double eyelids, for your tall legs and English vocabulary. They don't know your name, but they love you for your Eurocentric features. You're 12 years old and you're in your favorite class, science. The boy sitting in front of you look back at you and the Chinese girl beside you, giggling. You hear the words ching chong and chink. You've never been called a racial slur before, so to avoid seeming vulnerable, you laugh with them. You start calling your Chinese friend Ling Ling and mock your race every chance you get. You're 17 and you just got home from the 3rd day of grade 12. A Filipino boy told you were pretty to your face and asked you out in the library. Thrilled because you've only ever dated white boys, you hurry home to tell your mom. To your surprise, her eyebrows frown as she asks, "How dark was his skin? How thick was his accent? How big was his nose?" She never asked what his name was. You're not allowed to go out with him. Being a first-generation immigrant is already hard when your parents avoid the very culture they grew up in. When the fear of being seen as an outsider is too deeply instilled in your mind, you're forced to conform. When you live in a Eurocentric world, the goal is to be as white as possible. I and many others were raised in a household suffused with internalized racism, so it doesn't help when the people around you share those exact same toxic thoughts. Generalized assumptions, biased accusations, and the lack of education are all reasons Asians in North America still face discrimination to this day. When will white people understand that they can't tell us to go back where we came from, but proceed to wear our clothes? Do the fox-eye trend, but then call us chinks? Get their nails done, yet mock the language and the accent? Blame us for COVID, but continue to attend anti-mask rallies while chanting, "It's a hoax"? Listen to K-pop, then call us slurs? Label us lazy immigrants, even though they enslaved a whole other race of people to do all the work they didn't want to do? When will people stop cherry-picking our culture? When will people stop dismissing Asian racism just because it isn't black? When will people see us for more than our brains and chinky eyes? If from this I could teach myself to love a culture I was engineered to hate, then you can learn how to respectfully appreciate it. If from this I could find an identity in things other than playing the piano or studying math, then you can choose to stick up for me when the time comes. If from this I could learn to stand up for myself, my nation, and my people, then you can educate yourself from my experiences. Thank you.